Night after night, dark shadows fell upon the peaceful life of Emma Reynolds. A young woman surrounded by routine and mundanity suddenly felt her life unraveling around her. It all began with a mysterious whisper that crept into her mind during moments when the world around her would freeze in slumber. An unclear voice, like a breeze from the past, began speaking to her. "Emma," it whispered, like a cool breeze, "I am here. I need your help." At first, during the nights, she thought it was mere senseless fantasies, ghosts of her own imagination. But the voice grew more insistent, its words becoming sharp and piercing, like knives through her consciousness. "I died under horrifying circumstances, Emma. My soul wanders in the dark corridors of time. Help me." Skepticism blended with unease, and night after night, Emma spent sleepless hours trying to grasp what was happening. She began delving into her past, questioning relatives, searching records, and that is when she discovered the truth that revealed grim perspectives before her. Her family, long trying to forget, found itself entangled in a dark history that had begun many years ago. Long ago, a terrible villainous act took place in the Reynolds house. In the shadows of their ancestral estate, a heinous deed was committed. A woman, a distant relative of Emma's, perished in horrifying circumstances, and her soul was trapped between realms. As Emma unearthed the past, she learned that a familial curse had long haunted their lineage, compelling each new generation to face dire consequences. She understood that it was her destiny to break this ominous cycle. The voice she heard belonged to the deceased woman, and had ordered her to bring her soul back to the realm of the living. Skeptical relatives cautioned Emma against continuing her investigation, but she remained steadfast. The deeper she dug, the more terrifying secrets and grim revelations she unveiled. She learned of betrayals, lies, and sacrifices that had made her family a part of a sinister history. To halt the curse and free the woman's soul, Emma had to piece together the fragments of this dark puzzle. She possessed only a mysterious map, schematically pointing to a location within the depths of the ancestral estate. The voice, which had become her second self, guided her step by step. With each new discovery, the ominous atmosphere in the house intensified. Shadows grew denser, eerie whispers resounded in the silence, and the air seemed charged with tension. Emma knew she was on the right path, but she also understood that the curse wouldn't release its grip easily. With every step, the barrier between realms grew thinner. She found a hidden path leading to the underground catacombs of the estate, where legend held the keys to breaking the curse. There, in darkness and mystery, she encountered an ancient ritual that demanded not only courage but also the willingness to sacrifice something precious. In the end, Emma realized that the enigmatic soul from the past was no stranger to her. It was her relative, who had perished in service to dark forces, all to uphold the family curse. Now, in this deadly clash between light and darkness, Emma had to grasp the true meaning of strength and what she was willing to sacrifice to stop the evil permeating. Liberating the soul required Emma's ultimate act of courage. She overcame her doubts and fears, gathering everything necessary for the ritual. In the dimness of the underground catacombs, she performed the mysterious ceremony, and in that moment, something incredible occurred. The entire house shook, and darkness began to yield to light. The walls groaned, as if experiencing pain. Suddenly, Emma felt cold hands on her shoulders. Before her stood the pale face of the woman in a long white dress. The soul, freed from captivity, had finally found its way to her across the ages. "Thank you, Emma," the soul whispered. "You've restored my life and peace." With those words, the woman disappeared, dissipating into the air. In the weeks that followed, the Reynolds house began to rejuvenate. Darkness retreated, and hope filled the atmosphere. Emma achieved what seemed impossible. She shattered the curse that had gripped her family for centuries, but the price she paid was high. The past unveiled its terrible secrets, but now she could look to the future with optimism and hope. The dark shadows receded, and night ceased to be frightening. Emma heard only silence and tranquility. It was over, but she knew she would never be alone now. Her family history remained with her, but it was no longer just a burden of fear and secrets. It was a source of strength and wisdom. The story of the voice from the past became her legacy, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, the power of will and faith can triumph over evil. The moist autumn veil covered the secluded hill, as if carefully concealing the forgotten house standing atop it. Dim lights from the windows flickered in the darkness, like ghosts, drawing the group of friends who had gathered to spend the weekend in this place. They called it the House on the Hill, and its eerie history was known to everyone in the neighborhood. The friends met in the twilight, pierced by fog that seemed not just like damp air, but rather like a curtain between worlds. Emma, Tom, Lisa, Mark, and Anna cheerfully lifted their bags filled with treats and hopes for joyful days. Pushing aside worrisome thoughts of past events, they decided that a brief retreat in such an unusual place would help them escape the routines of daily life. At first, everything was fun. They explored the cozy rooms covered in years of dust and oblivion. Reviving the blazing fireplace, they listened to the whispers of the wind outside the windows and left, sharing old stories. However, as the sun set behind the horizon and night fell, the atmosphere inside the house began to change. Tom was the first to succumb to a premonition. During dinner, he suddenly cringed in his chair as if in sharp pain. He attempted to smile to mask his discomfort, but fear showed in his eyes. "Tom, what happened?" Emma asked, rising from the table with concern. "Nothing. It has probably just nerves," mumbled Tom, but his voice trembled. Later, when the others had gone to sleep, Emma Coldentee dozed off. It felt like the air had thickened, as if it could be touched. She closed her eyes, but in the darkness, she felt as though someone was watching her. Opening her eyes, she saw a faint light in the corner of the room. It flickered, revealing the slow outline of a figure in an old armchair. Emma froze. Goosebumps ran down her body, and she heard a faint whisper, even though the figure's lips remained unmoving. The next morning, Tom Coldentee recalled what happened during the night. He woke up on the floor, covered by a blanket, even though he remembered going to bed. His body ached as if he had been pricked with needles, but he tried to ignore it. With each passing hour, events grew stranger. Sudden cold drafts of air, loud moans from empty rooms, doors opening and closing on their own. The friends began to argue, faced with the inexplicable. But skepticism faded when Mark was attacked by an unseen force, his body lifted into the air and then thrown to the ground with force. Fear gripped them all. Lisa and Anna began to fade into the shadows, their voices heard from a distance, but their bodies invisible. The friends tried to leave the house, but doors and windows seemed like shifting targets, oozing terrifying darkness through the cracks. With each passing hour, the friends realized that this house was no place for fun and relaxation. It was something much darker and enigmatic. In the library, they found an old book detailing mysterious deaths that occurred here years ago. They had never been alone. The house never forgot its victims. Gathering together, the friends explored the pages of the book and realized they needed to uncover the truth to break free from this nightmarish trap. They had to find the clues hidden somewhere within the house. With each turned page of the past, they learned more about the lives and deaths of those who had lived and perished there. Days and nights merged into an incomprehensible reality. Fear mingled with determination, fueled by the desire to survive. They discovered secret doors, forgotten basements, and navigated through labyrinthine corridors, yet answers remained elusive. One by one, they confronted ghosts and memories of the past. Terrifying visions tormented them, and their strength waned. Just when they felt they could no longer continue, they stumbled upon the last entry in the book, a page they had skipped. It described a ritual ceremony that could release the trapped souls in the house. The power of friendship and desperation united them as they began to perform the ritual, following the instructions on the page. At the moment when the final words were spoken, the house trembled as if its foundations cracked. A whirlwind of energy swept through the room, and the friends saw ghosts, those who had once died there. Light filled the room, and the horrifying specters vanished. The air became clear, and the cold lifted. The friends stepped outside, greeted by the first rays of morning sun. The forgotten house on the hill was no longer a place of horror and darkness. They left, carrying with them terrifying memories and lessons. The house on the hill remained behind, but their friendship had grown stronger. They realized that even in the darkest moments, when confronted with mysteries and fears, the strength of spirit and mutual support can help overcome any trials.